fucking nightmare. Can't wake up and sweat, cause it ain't over yet. Still dancing with your demons. Victim of your own creation. Beyond the will to fight, where all that's wrong is right. Where hate don't need a reason.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once more to the Nightmare Broadcast Booth. We are coming to you live from Sebring, Florida. More Florida action here. We have hit both Daytona and Miami in the Cup cars, and boy, was that an experience. But now we're at Sebring, and we are bringing you not just the Cup cars, but the Supercars and the Pilot Challenge are back. And you may be wondering, is this going to be a thing where the Pilot Challenge are only going to the road courses that the Cup Series are? And no, there will be a point in time where they will split, and the Pilot and Supercars will go off globe trotting on their own, while NASCAR gets to stay home in the U.S. Of course, NASCAR is, at least in this world, for the Nightmare Sim Series world, NASCAR is also going to be heading overseas. And they will be points paying races this time. And, well, it'll be fun. We'll get to it when we get to it. Should be after Phoenix when you guys get to see that. I may make up a nice schedule graphic if I can. If I can't really make a good schedule graphic for it, then we will refrain from that and just kind of, you guys will be finding out where we go as we go along. But tonight it is the Supercars and the Pilot Challenge. Race 1 of the Supercars at Sebring. They will have 2, 1 each day. And the Pilot Challenge with its only race here tonight. And we'll tune in live, and we'll actually pull that off of there. We don't need that logo for this race. We are not at the Dixie Vodka 400. That was, of course, the Cup Series at Homestead. So Sebring, a nice overhead shot of the course, and you can see it there. Absolutely love this track. It's one of my favorites in the world. And, of course, it just so happens to be in my home state of Florida. So, more fun for me. We do have a new ticker, courtesy of Alex Cummins, race who runs in Nora, along with myself and Josh Conover. Of course, this ticker was used to broadcast in Nora, so big thanks to him for making the ticker and for Josh sending it over to me so that we have a more up-to-date ticker that isn't going to take until you cross the line to update positions. So this one will actually update live during the race. And of course, having the side ticker looks a little bit better. We're actually going to, and you'll see me do it live, we're going to move that little logo down there so that it's not blocking the ticker for you guys. So, with that being said, I think the guys practicing are good to go. I think I'm good to go, so we will flip this over and we'll come on down. Turn that down a little, and we will go ahead and hit advance. Go to qualify now. Sebring has put on some interesting moments for me here, and I'm excited for it. I hope you guys are just as excited for Sebring. It's a great race. I've done a couple tests with not just the Supercars, but the Pilot Challenge that you're going to see later. And, well, let's put it this way. I've gotten yellow flags. And I mean full course yellows. So, anything can happen. Anything. So we're going to look forward to this. A little recap for those who may not remember, I will pull it up here for myself. The points as they run. Didn't need to make it that big. Oop. Is Shane Van Gisbergen at 256, Cam Waters 240, Marco Wittmann 226, Chaz Mostert 220, and Renger van der Zand 214. Your winners from Daytona, race 1 was Cam Waters, race 2 was Shane Van Gisbergen, and race 3 was Marco Wittmann. Who will we see take victory here today at Sebring? And who will we see take victory in the Pilot Challenge? Race 1 of this series will be today. Like I said, race 2 will be tomorrow we're on the same course. There'll be no change there. What will change is how much rubber buildup will already be on the track when they take for practice. So that'll change between each and every race. And that's something you'll see throughout the year at all of these events, because as they run this, they build up more rubber on the circuit, and that stays there unless it rains. And well, it's Sebring. It didn't rain. It's nice and sunny in the early months of the year. So everybody is now coming to start their first lap, and for the first time this season, and what will be forever the rest of the year, because we will not be returning to Daytona, but we will see standing starts in this series. Standing starts are the norm of Supercars, and we're going to see it at every race from here on out. And boy, do we love standing starts. Standing starts are certainly always a handful, always an interesting spectacle because of how chaotic they can become. If somebody doesn't get a good start, boom, you're running into the back of them. Now, the good news for everybody here is that the front stretch is pretty wide and there's a lot of room. And they kind of stagger the cars a little bit on the starts here. You will see a bit of a difference when we head to Sandow and Winton, and I want to say Phillip Island as well. I'm not 100% sure on Bathurst. I think Bathurst still staggers them. But Sandow, Winton, and I really want to say Phillip Island, but it might not. I know for a fact Sandow and Winton do, and that is they start side by side every row deep. And that's how they do it in the supercars. The supercars don't stagger like Formula One. If you watch Formula One on Sundays, you'll know that the Formula One grid staggers. First is a car length ahead of car 2 or whatever it might be. I don't think it's car length, but they don't start dead even with one another. Well, supercars in real life's a bit different, and they say screw it, screw the normal convention, start them side by side. And it makes for interesting moments. So Earl Bamber looked to have the pole for just a moment. Kamui Kobayashi, the only person to not set a time currently. I will give him a little bit extra to set a time. I think actually it should, because I disqualified myself in practice, it should send it as soon as he crosses the line. And there he goes, P23. But Shane Van Gisbergen gets the pole. Ladies and gentlemen, Shane Van Gisbergen on the pole here, and for whatever reason it did not send it after that. So we'll click over, and you can see through the timing, and it looks like some of the numbers aren't all there, and there's not much I can do to fix that because I don't know how to. But Shane, obviously in the 97, Feeney, I honestly forget what number he's in. I want to say the 35 maybe. Yeah, he's in the 35. Are we waiting? Yes, we are. Okay. And we will do the grid start button real quick. And here we go. 5 red lights, as you could say. And we wait for them to accelerate away. And we're underway here at Sebring. From a standing start, Shane Van Gisbergen gets a good jump. Marco Wittmann looking to the inside of Earl Bamber, who has another great qualifying run. P2 again. He's been on the front row every race so far. A little bit of contact and one car going wide, but overall fairly clean except for in the back. David Reynolds goes around. David Reynolds sent around at the back of the pack, and everybody else double file through turns 2. And here we come through Big Bend, I want to say this is. And they'll head down to the hairpin. So Shane Van Gisbergen clears out in front, but Marco Wittmann not too far behind. Earl Bamber trying to hold on. Pippo Durrani trying to hold off Philippe Albuquerque. And a couple bit of changes up here. Cam Waters falls back a little bit. He's under fire from Ranger van der Zandt. He's going to get a good line through there and hopefully be able to clear Ranger. Although it doesn't look like he will. He's going to hold steady on that outside, and now he's going to clear around him. Jordan Taylor, he's going to run to his inside of Ranger, and you'll recognize a couple names that you'll see in the Cup race as well tomorrow. So a couple guys pulling double duty even in this series. Not very many, but they're there. And Cam Waters trying to get around Mario Farnbacher. Farnbacher with an incredible qualifying, and he's well up in the field. You can see James Courtney trying to get around. Actually, he does get around Ranger van der Zandt. And we send it down into Sunset, the big sweeping hairpin at the end of the track to complete a lap. Shane Van Gisbergen does lead the first lap, and I'm noticing that our little overlay, and this seems to be a common occurrence. There we go. Doesn't show correctly sometimes. But we are under green flag conditions. As Cam Waters is under fire from Jordan Taylor. Jordan Taylor going to look to his inside. Waters is going to clear him. And now Taylor is going to be under fire from Courtney. We continue to watch the battles throughout the field, but there is a little bit something brewing at the front. Marco Wittmann not too far behind Shane Van Gisbergen. And excuse me because I'm being interrupted again. And we are back. So Shane Van Gisbergen plays the defensive card. He's going to do this probably all race long, and we likely won't see any passing, honestly, with it. They really do need the draft off of one another in that defensive line. He actually does break the draft with it. You'd think at some point, and this is something that I do hope that they do eventually look at, is having them kind of follow the guy in front of them when the guy goes defensive like that until you get into the corner, because you would likely follow the guy to try to get the draft as Bamber looks to get through passed on Vittman, and he does. So Earl Bamber goes through to second, and Pippo Durrani follows him through. And Mario Farnbacher seems to be holding up Cam Waters behind these guys. Vittman now having to defend Philippe Albuquerque. Albuquerque up his inside. Waters trying to figure out how he's going to get around Mario Farnbacher back there as Philippe Albuquerque sends it up the inside of Marco Vittman. And he's not going to get the job done just yet, but he might have it here. And I believe I just watched Vittman go straight through. Oh, if I can find it. There he is. And Marco Vittman gets a little wide, gets out on the grass. I thought I saw cones go flying and right into the tire barrier. It does look like he's going to keep going, but that is a huge hit for him. And now Bamber on the defensive from Pippo, and Philippe Albuquerque defending against Mostert. And this is exactly what Shane wants to see, because now he's going to drive away. So Waters now trying to not only defend against Jordan Taylor, but somehow get around Mario Farnbacher, and now he's on the defensive. Farnbacher is clear enough of Cam Waters that Waters is now doing the defensive line against Jordan Taylor. So an incredible start to this race, as it's absolutely been outstanding. Throughout the field, we see battles left and right. And it's only lap 4 of, well, 42. This one is a little bit of an endurance here at Sebring. We're looking at long races throughout. We got 42 laps here for this one, and another 2 hours of thinking of the word pilot challenge racing, multi-class racing later. So we'll see that. Marco Vittman on pit road, as kind of to be expected, honestly, after nosing first, as we watch Scott Pye do exactly the same. So Scott Pye goes straight on, right into the tire barrier, just the same as Marco Vittman. So that'll be something that we'll keep an eye on and continue to watch. But Van Gisbergen now holds almost a 2-second lead on Bamber. Albuquerque almost 3 seconds back at this point. And the gap keeps growing further and further back. So an incredible turn of events here for Marco Vittman, who was running very well right up at the front, as he needed to be, and just straight into the tire barrier. And now he's dead last in the field, a minute and 49 behind the leader. Minute 49 seconds behind the leader. I mean, when you think about it that way, that's it's a pretty sizable gap there. And quite frankly, without cautions, and I don't know if we'll have one in this race. For the most part, when I've seen it, it is on restarts and the start, where they really get themselves into trouble. But, I mean, we're looking at lap 5 of 42. I don't see a caution coming. At least not a full course yellow. So the likelihood that Vittman is going to be able to catch up is simply on how fast he can run and how much damage he has to that car. And quite frankly, it's not looking good in that respect. So lap 5 of 42. Like I said, a long way to go in this one. We're going to be here for quite some time. Looking like an estimated hour and 15 minutes still to go in this race. So slightly longer than I think it was for our Daytona events in these cars. And there will, of course, be pit stops and other things that will occur during this race. And, you know, pit stops have played a huge role in almost every race we've seen all year long. So I wouldn't be surprised to see pit stops play a role here. As Durrani now holding up Mosert, causing a big train to start to form behind them. Going all the way back to I who is that? Loic Duval. That's right, Loic Duval in 13th. So that's how big of a train we have here in this group, and you can kind of see Ryan Hunter-Reay trying to catch on to it. Now Mosert under fire from Mario Farnbacher. Farnbacher going to go around the inside of him, and it looks like he's going to get that job done. So Farnbacher to 5th around Mosert. You could see Albuquerque and Bamber both on their own as they try to run down Shane Van Gisbergen. And Bamber kind of putting in better laps than Shane, but not catching him, at least not yet. We'll have to see how that plays out over the course of the race. But again, it's only lap 6. It's very, very early, ladies and gentlemen. Plenty of racing to be had. Sebring, very old, very historic racetrack. I want to say, and I might just have to look it up to be sure, that Sebring hosted the first ever United States Grand Prix. Now, I could be wrong about this, and I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say that Sebring did host it, Formula One race. Obviously, the United States Grand Prix currently runs at COTA, and it does look like actually it was first held in 1908. So it does look like Sebring did host, and I knew this, Sebring did host the 1959 U.S. Grand Prix. And yeah, so it did host a Grand Prix, which I was almost certain it did. Of course, everybody that knows racing enough and follows sports car racing, or you know, is an American fan of racing or whatever it might be, Sebring is synonymous with one race. That's the 12 hours. Once around the clock, halfway of the previous race. You know, Sebring runs just after the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Well, not just after, it's about almost 2 months as Cam Waters now gets around Chaz Mosert. So Waters is going to be able to clear Mosert. Now he's going to go after Mario Farnbacher again. And actually, he's not clear just yet as Mosert dives that thing down in there And Waters is now going to be under fire from Jordan Taylor to his inside. Mozart now trying to actually look to get back by Farnbacher even. This is, of course, now putting Cam Waters behind Jordan Taylor. So Jordan Taylor completes the pass and Waters falls to 8th. Jordan Taylor in the Hendrick Motorsports entry up to 7th as Renger van der Zand is under fire from James Courtney, who's actually going to send it up the inside of his teammate all the way on the rumble strips on the inside of that corner. And he is going to get that job done, at least on Renger van der Zand, but not on his teammate. All things stay fairly tidy. No real beating and banging just yet, but it is the Supercars, and it's certainly allowed to an extent. Obviously, we don't want to see anybody getting hurt or anything like that. Of course, this is virtual, and the beauty of it is that nobody can really get hurt, thankfully. And I for one enjoy that. It makes watching the wrecks a little bit more fun, because if there's big wrecks, everybody's there's nobody getting hurt. If there's a big wreck, there's a big wreck, and you can kind of watch it and go, ooh, that was cool to see, or whatever it might be. Not going to see that today, I don't think. These cars, they're just not in a big wrecky mood. Maybe if we had Ricky Stenhouse out here, we might see different. I don't know. But Jordan Taylor trying to get something done to the outside of Cam Water, or not Cam Water, sorry. Cam drives that car in real life. But Chaz Mosert in the 6. And this is going to open the door for... and something I'm noticing that I didn't notice before, and I'm hoping it's a glitch, but Cam Waters does not seem to have his trunk, which has his spoiler attached to it, which is one of the weirdest things I have now seen. That car looks like a street car going around here, and it's weird and funny, and I like it. I don't know why, but I like it. Maybe it'll be more streamlined. He doesn't have the big wing to slow him down. Certainly should be losing downforce. He doesn't seem to be. So it's leading me to believe it might just be a glitch, and that he actually does have that trunk and deck lid and rear spoiler, or wing, or whatever you want to call it, because he really shouldn't be able to make some of the corners that he is at the speed that he is without that thing. Those wings are there to provide downforce and keep the cars planted as they go through the corners. If it isn't there, and he is able to just fly around this track, that's a big advantage. But it's seeming like physically it looks like it's not there. But to the physics of the car and the way it's driving, I think it is. But I'm not sure. I really don't know. So, Waters now driving a regular sedan with no spoiler on the back of it. Holden Commodore, or as the Americans might know it, the Chevy SS. But actually, this is a Buick. I apologize. This is based off of the same car that would become the Buick Regal. This is actually a Opel, and the Buick also based on the same Opel. So there's a little bit of fun fact for you. I forget which Opel it is. I want to say it's the Insignia. Actually, I know it's the Insignia. It's the Opel Insignia. And they made the Holden Commodore with it, and the Buick Regal, I want to say. Might have been the Regal. I'm not 100% sure. I know that there's a Buick based on the Opel Insignia, the same exact car as this Holden Commodore. So, yeah, Buick. As for Sebring, something I think I was mentioning before, the 12 hours. The 12 hours is a fantastic race once around the clock. Falls as the next race following Daytona, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, that is. And it puts on a good show every year, and I love watching it. It's fantastic to watch as they go into the nighttime. And we'll kind of get a little bit of a sense of that later on, as I'm hoping to have the GT cars, the pilot challenge, kind of run into the night a little. Maybe not into full darkness if we can avoid it. I still want to be able to see what we got going on, but we'll see what kind of time and whatnot we got going on with that. Bamber now closing, and this gap continues to close to Shane Van Gisbergen up here. It's now only a second, just over a second. So we'll see if that can't keep closing. And somebody doing a fantastic job here today, right? Philippe Albuquerque in that Brad Jones Racing 96. Absolute fantastic job for him. He is putting on a great show. And, excuse me, Pippo Durrani also having another great day. Pippo had a couple good races at Daytona, and he's having another good showing here. We're clicking off about 2 minutes a lap here for Shane. And quite frankly, I don't know when we're going to see pit stops. We're going to see them. I know that much. It's going to happen. I just don't know when. As now Cam Waters tries to get around Chaz Mostert again. He did it before earlier. He's going to pinch him out wide. Mostert going to get on the grass for a moment. He's lucky he has not followed in the footsteps of Scott Pye and Marco Wittmann. Pye certainly getting off. It looks like a little bit better than Wittmann did. But, yeah, that could have been bad for Mostert on the outside there, dipping a tire into the grass. We've seen plenty of guys go straight on. As Renger van der Zand ends up a little wide, he's going to hold on to it, though. And Waters is clear, and you can see Jordan Taylor now side by side with Mostert. And they're going to go toe-to-toe down into sunset. And I'm absolutely loving this. This is great battles throughout the field. When we'll see pit stops, nobody knows. But they're going to come eventually, and we'll be able to gauge whether or not they can make it to the end. Once they do pit. If they pit at lap 21 or later, probably can make it to the end. Anything before that, and we'll be seeing an extra pit stop. So, and then we will know for tomorrow. Because I will not be playing with the fuel anymore. The fuel will be set at 85% for every race, except for 2 of them. When we go to Canada and the Bathurst 1000. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. We will do the Bathurst 1000. I definitely hope to have a rotating booth of commentators for that one, if we can, just to kind of help myself out. As that will be 6 hours in length, roughly. It is 161 laps around Mount Panorama Circuit, and yeah, a lot of fun. So we're going to keep on with it. We are hoping to actually bring you guys the Xfinity Series, the Truck Series, and the Cup Series for the first time ever this week. Josh has said we can maybe look at doing something Tuesday and Thursday, so we'll be looking at that as a possibility for Vegas. Vegas will be the next event on the Cup calendar. Of course, this series and the Pilot Challenge won't be headed there. I actually did think about bringing the Supercars onto an oval for a race or two, and certainly they can handle it. I have watched them handle it in the eSupercar series with the real people doing it. So I'm sure they can handle it. But we are going to keep them to the road course, and we'll enjoy ovals with NASCAR. So we are hoping to, for the first time ever, and likely what'll happen is on the weeks where uh, the Supercars and the Pilot Challenge don't have a race that week, then we will bring you also coverage of the trucks and Xfinity to kind of try and fill out the gap. When it comes to the championship race later in the year, across the board, which, by the way, I will inform has been moved to Phoenix as of right now. Can still be subject to change, but we will be going to Phoenix, much like real life NASCAR. And a lot of it was due to what I witnessed at Homestead in the Cup Series. Now, the Xfinity and the trucks were a lot more tame, if you were. They they weren't quite as ridiculous in terms of wrecks. In fact, I don't think they had any. They only had two cautions throughout the race, both for the stage, but these are the kind of things that end up happening. So the Cup cars were a bit of a wreck fest, and I wasn't too thrilled with it. So we will not be currently headed to Homestead for the championship race. I didn't want to see the championship winner win because his three rivals are eliminated on like lap 5. Just wouldn't be great for the championship, and I think depending on how Phoenix goes, it'll hopefully be better, but I'm not 100% sure there either. So, but Bamber has now caught Shane Van Gisbergen. We're going to see what this is going to do to this battle, because certainly with the fact that Bamber has caught Shane, you know he is faster, and Shane is going to immediately go to the defensive line, which we expect. And Bamber is going to do what he feels he needs to get around him. He's going to find whatever way he can to try to get around this man. The defensive line for Shane Van Gisbergen. Of course, again, we ask the question, when will they pit? It plays such a big factor into, whether or not we will see a one-stop strategy or a two-stop strategy. Or possibly a three-stop strategy if it's too early. Although I don't really foresee that happening. At least not at this point. It would have to have already happened, I think. Lap 15 would put them at needing to make it to 30 and 45. So I think as of right now, it's a two-stop strategy in this race. And the question becomes, who is going to bite first? Who is going to be the first one on pit road? And just how far can they push it anyway? So Shane Van Gisbergen continues to lead for the Red Lion contingent. Earl Bamber trying to find his way for the Blue Ovals. Who is going to get the job done here at Sebring? It's way too early to tell. Pit crews are going to play too big of a factor in this, and we all know it. But what I can tell you is these two going at it like they are is bringing Philippe Albuquerque into it. And that's what Shane wants to see. Shane kind of actually would like to see Philippe get up here, because Philippe will probably get into a position where he'll start racing against Bamber. Now, Bamber's going to keep it to Shane's outside. He actually has done a fantastic job to get to that position. He is not going to be able to hold it there, but can he outbrake Shane? Well, that's kind of one of those things. you're trying to find where you're going to be able to set up so that you have the advantage into the next corner. Now, the problem with the hairpin is the next actual corner after the hairpin is a right-hander, which is the same direction as the hairpin. So whoever has the inside in the hairpin is going to continue to hold the inside. Bamber trying to find whatever advantage he can. He really wants to get around Shane. He feels like he's faster, and he very well might be. He very well is time-wise, with a 202.9 to Shane's 203.0. Of course, Philippe's back here running a 202.4, and then you even have Pippo and Farnbacher with a 202.3. Actually, Farnbacher's 203. Apologize. Farnbacher now actually having to hold off Cam Waters again. And Waters is actually under fire from his teammate and James Courtney. So a great showing for the Walkinshaw and Andretti team as they're both in the top 10. Of course, they're not up as far as they probably want to be, but you can't win everything. Bamber now going to look to the outside again. What kind of run can he get? Can he get alongside Shane once again? And it does look like it looked like he did for just a moment, but wasn't able to hold it again. Philippe Albuquerque is now here, and when will he try and make a move on Bamber? Bamber continues to make mistakes, shouldn't be too long, and Bamber really needs to minimize those mistakes to stay as close to Shane as he can so that when Shane makes his own mistake, he's right there to pounce. Now, of course, it's nice and cool here at Sebring. Nowhere near as warm as it was kind of in my practice races. So we'll see if that doesn't play a factor into things. It certainly might have played a factor into the start of the race, although I don't know because a lot of what I saw in practice races was contact. So we'll see how that plays out in the pilot challenge, which was certainly a lot worse off in the practice races in terms of contact and the cautions coming out. But Bamber continues to hold steady, trying to find his way around Shane wherever he can. Where he seems to be the best is through this section coming up. That's where he really gets a great run on Shane. Through this section here, the S's, I believe it might be, and into Big Bend. Nice, beautiful Corvette sign. And it looks like to run that inside line like he wants to, Shane actually gets on the brakes coming through Big Bend. And that's kind of what sets him up to have the door really open for Bamber to kind of be able to stick his nose in on the outside. Now, of course, nothing comes of this each and every time through because, well, there's just nothing there. But certainly he makes the attempt time and time again. As Courtney now trying to get around Farnbacher, will he be able to get this job done? As you know, multiple corners back to the right here really kind of helps out Farnbacher, but Courtney is really managing to hold his own here with two back-to-back lefts. But Farnbacher is actually going to clear Courtney, so Farnbacher continues to hold position. Courtney really gave it a good run, but just couldn't hold it to get around him. And of course, while these guys continue to battle, it's going to bring Jordan Taylor back into this with that group. And that's one of those things these guys definitely know Farnbacher is kind of holding them up, and pit stops may be able to change this. If we get the right kind of pit stops, you'll see Courtney and Waters maybe overtake Farnbacher as Courtney actually gets a great run. You see what the draft does for you as he's able to send it up the inside, or not Courtney, but Waters gets a great run on Courtney. I apologize. And a couple of drivers are into pit road. Renger van der Zand, Loic Duval, and Tommy Milner all hit pit road. Now the draft works in favor of Courtney as he's going to send it up the inside of his teammate. And this is going to set him up into this corner. And Farnbacher continues to defend, even though he's kind of pulling away a little bit because of this little bit of a battle. And Jordan Taylor now looks to the outside of Cam Waters. Courtney does clear back and he takes his position back, but you can kind of see what the draft will do for you when you can just ride behind a guy. So that's why I keep saying it'd be nice to see maybe these guys start countering the defensive driving by actually following the driver and stealing his draft, because especially in a lot of these cars, it's so dependent on it. As we've had Loic Duval, Kamui Kobayashi, Tommy Milner, and Renger van der Zand all on pit road, and Renger is the only one who Renger took the longest. Kamui with a 56.5 for total time on pit road. Loic Duval with a 101.8 for total time, and he was the first driver off of pit road. Now, pit road is pretty slow here, which is part of the issue. And then on top of that, you're looking at 30 some odd second pit stops to really put enough fuel in this thing. They are going to have to make a second stop, it looks like, and here comes the front three drivers. Peppo Durrani also going to pit here. And these guys have a huge advantage on Mario Farnbacher and James Courtney and company. And we'll see what those guys do behind them, and how, and now Kamui Kobayashi has already, or is battling with Loic Duval, and they're trying to figure out how. And the entire rest of the field looks like they're coming to pit road. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. As you can see, everybody on pit road. And this can also play into the pit stop times. So who's going to get off first? It does look like Bamber is going to leave first, and he does. Shane does get out in front of Philippe Albuquerque, but Bamber does jump Shane Van Gisbergen on pit road. Pippo Durrani is first out from his group, and it looks like Farnbacher is, or no, that's Brock Feeney who's leaving earliest. Brody Kostecki makes it out in front of James Courtney and Cam Waters. And Farnbacher comes out much farther behind. Kamui Kobayashi and Loic Duval, who took on, and Tommy Milner, who decided to pit a lap early, so they went with the undercut, actually cycled through in 7th, 8th, and 9th. So smart move on their part, actually taking the undercut worked out in favor of them. They gained a bunch of time. They were actually behind a lot of the guys they're now in front of. So smart move by them. Shane Van Gisbergen and Philippe Albuquerque going to go at it. And we see Loic Duval making a pass on Brody Kostecki. Now, another thing to note, a lot of the guys that just hit pit road have come in and put on new tires. Loic Duval, Kamui Kobayashi, and Tommy Milner are on a lap older tires, but that means that they're already up to temperature. Now, for those that may not run a lot of road racing, when you come out on cold tires, it's not a fun time. You're just not having a fun time. I'm going to tell you that right now. once you get those tires heated up, you're okay. Things are fine. But cold tires are not your friend at any point in time. So we will see how everything plays out. Cam Waters is now defending uh, Ryan Hunter-Ray, although not entirely, as he's not actually in there. He goes onto the defensive line, but not really seeing it out of anybody else. Bamber with a 2.5 second gap on Shane, really kind of in his own zip code at this point. Had a 4 second better stop in the box, 3 seconds better on total time through pit road, and it ends up with him in the lead. Bamber, of course, not having won a race yet. Could we see the fourth different winner in 4 races? Which, in my opinion, would be fantastic to see. I'm all for it. Let's see more winners. Let's get as many as we can in this series. It'll certainly make for better point standings. But with 23 laps to go, so we're already in a good spot here. I think we're 2 laps away from halfway. The completion of this lap and then the completion of the next lap, and we'll be at halfway. So we're picking up time, putting it down. Laps are clicking off pretty quickly, and that's fantastic. You know, it's been a great race. There's certainly been battles throughout, and these are things that you love to see um, in these races. And of course, you know, Bamber's pit crew definitely did a fantastic job on pit road this last time. But that's not to say that his crew couldn't be the demise of him when they come in again. Because they cannot make it on just the one stop. All right, they pitted 2 laps ago, and that puts them on lap 19. They needed to make it to 21. That being said, what I'm going to do now is... Sorry. Trying to find decent cameras for maybe crank it up, but not looking like I can find any, so we will not do crank it up, sadly. And we'll just kind of stick with what we got. So we're coming to 21 to go this next time. So we'll be right at the halfway point, which is what we want to see. We want to get ever closer to the finish of this race and moving on to the next one, because it's a long night tonight. But if you are enjoying what you're seeing and you want to tune in on a week in and week out basis, make sure you hit that follow button, and you'll be able to get updates on whenever we go live for a race, whether it be here at the Nightmare Sim series or for a Nora event. I do like to broadcast those, although might not be doing so this week. We'll have to see how I'm feeling about that one. But now, halfway through this event and 21 laps to go, Earl Bamber really putting in the work. But, you know, much like Bamber was the faster follow car last time, Shane Van Gisbergen now inches closer. He wants the lead back. And quite frankly, I don't know how you're going to hold him off. It's certainly probably doable. to say the least. But we do have battles throughout the field. You can see here as this is Farnbacher and Ryan Hunter-Ray going side by side. Ranger Vanderzand trying to figure out his way through. And we get a little single file. Chaz Mostert, Mark Winterbottom, some names we haven't heard. This battle is actually 12th on back, as not really sure where this camera is. I don't think this camera back works. I think I actually know exactly where this is. So we're actually going to sit here for a second. Because I'm almost certain we're about to have the whole pack. Because that was Brock Feeney. And here we go. What awesome sounding race cars. I love these things. They are fantastic to listen to. As Loic Duval goes defensive against Kamui Kobayashi, Tommy Milner. Oh no, I apologize. That was Brody Kostecki throwing it up the inside of Kamui. He's trying to get past. Tommy Milner runs just behind them along with James Courtney. And each time they inch ever closer, Loic Duval goes on the defensive. Odi Kostecki still on the outside of Kamui Kobayashi. He's going to be run wide. Milner's going to look to his inside. And they're going to set up for turn 2 with Milner now trying to get by. And what will James Courtney try to do is he's behind these guys. And Waters, who's cleared the pack that was behind him, now trying to run these guys down. And he's honestly not too far off from them. Shane Van Gisbergen continues to close ever so slightly. Not quite as quick as the follow car as Bamber. Bamber really does seem to have a fantastic car, and both drivers actually seem to be roughly equal. Chaz Mostert actually with the fastest lap of the race so far. A 1:59.9. The second best I can see is Philippe Albuquerque with a 2:04. So Mostert with a 1:59.9, actually breaking the 2-minute mark. Man was flying for whatever lap that was in this race. He managed to find enough speed. But Shane trying to run down Earl Bamber. Albuquerque trying to run down Shane. And behind them, Pippo just too far back. I think at this point, the podium might be settled, barring a ridiculous outcome from pit stops. But we'll have to see. Pit stops this time through should be a lot shorter. They do carry 2 sets of tires every race, so 2 pit stops, no problem with 2 tires. It'll actually become an interesting scenario when we get later into the season. They will, of course, have a couple of more tires for the Bathurst 1000 and an extra set for Canada. Will carry 3 extra sets. Or 3 sets instead of just 2. The reason being is strategy. I want to see how these guys will play out with being kind of forced into this position of, well, you can only put tires on a certain amount of times. And, in fact, actually for here on out, I think we're going to drop it to 1. If we've got it to where on these longer races like this, where they're having to make 2 different pit stops, I want to see which stop they decide to take tires. And that's a huge strategy thing. And I think it'll be interesting for them. So, these guys will have 1 set of tires moving forward. They had 2 today, 1 from here on out. And I think that'll prove to make an interesting race. And if you're wondering why that's okay, when it comes to these kind of road tires like this, they really don't wear out enough that you probably need to put tires on every single time you come in. I want to say this is Dunlop that makes the tires for the Supercars, and they make a pretty durable tire. It lasts quite long, and you don't always need to put new tires on. So they'll be okay. But of course, obviously, a older, more worn tire is going to be slower. So it'll be interesting to see if the AI will deem that the strategy is worth it to be slower early on and faster late, or to be fast early and slow late. So we'll have to see. Because, like I said, I think that'll be an interesting choice. 18 laps to go here at Sebring. Not all that much longer. You can really see the rubber starting to build up around this racetrack. Absolutely fantastic. I love the way that kind of stuff kind of looks. Just absolutely fantastic. But, you know, Shane just not running Bamber down quite as quickly as Bamber did to him. So I think Bamber might have a little bit better of a car. And who knows? Bamber, of course, dominated the early parts of race 1 at Daytona and had his problems. Will he finally be able to make up for it and get the win that he probably should have had at Daytona, but didn't end up getting? Back throughout the pack, we see more battling going on. Kamui Kobayashi trying to defend Tommy Milner, James Courtney trying to run them down. Cam Waters on the defensive with Brody Kostecki. And just great racing throughout the field. You'll love to see it. How will all of this play out for the Pilot Challenge? Now, of course, we will have a little bit longer of a break in between races. I will, of course, have to go in and make sure that everything is set correctly for the multi-class series. But we are here and we're ready for all of the action that unfolds in the end of this race and into the Pilot Challenge. So Sebring, for those that don't know about the track, formerly a military installation down here, a U.S. Army Air Base during World War II. In the 50s, it was converted into a racetrack, and they started hosting the 12 Hours of Sebring. And the track was not really like the one that we know today. Changes have occurred throughout the years to kind of mold the track into this current layout that we run today here at Sebring. But the track wasn't always this way, and a lot of things about the track were actually a lot different. In fact, I want to say they actually used a much longer stretch of the tarmac and this set of corner, this wasn't actually a bend like this. This wasn't Sunset Bend. It was actually two back-to-back 90-degree right turns back in the old days. Of course, my knowledge of the track may not be entirely sound. What I do know is they used to have airplanes sitting just off the track as James Courtney's off track. And what has happened to him? Well, he was off track from the get-go here. Ran wide. Actually looks like he might have made contact here. See if we don't have a little bit better of an angle. Thank you for that. So it does look like there might have been contact. Courtney ends up out here just going through the grass. All the way out, gets out here, and ends up back out in the grass, puts a little bit of damage there, and he eventually ends up towing. Now, in the past, I would teach, well, actually, a tow is a tow. And that's part of what the disqualification is for. So, James Courtney is out of this race at lap 27. So, Courtney will not be scoring points. He has not made it to 3/4 of the way through, I believe. I'm not actually sure what 3/4 of the way through would be. I guess it would have to be past lap 30. So, I think it'd be just past. I think basically if he would have completed lap 31, he would have been all right. But there will be no points awarded to James Courtney. So much like Earl Bamber at Daytona in race 1, 0 points. That's a rough one. You don't want to get stuck in that situation. And something we're starting to see, maybe Shane Van Gisbergen having to battle a little bit and go defensive on Philippe Albuquerque. He's losing ground to Earl Bamber now. Bamber's pulling back away. So Bamber might really have this one, barring anything on the pit stops, in the bag, or barring really anything else happening, because certainly we have seen weird things happen throughout these races. Just 15 laps to go. We're under 30 minutes projected. And Shane Van Gisbergen really does kind of look like he's running the defensive line every now and then. And it's hurting him. It's going to hurt. This is one of those tracks where there really isn't anywhere where the defensive line you can get away with running quick with. You can actually kind of see the rubber building up down into this corner. There's been so many guys that have run that defensive line that it's actually building rubber. And that's incredible to see. It's not going to help you be any faster, but it's still an incredible thing to see the amount of rubber actually building up from these guys running this defensive line. So we'll see if we don't see it. And there it is down into this corner as well. So Shane continues to run defensive on Albuquerque to hold him behind him. And this is allowing Bamber to just drive away. Bamber is loving what he is seeing out of his rearview mirror, or if his team strategist is telling him what's going on. He couldn't be happier right now, because this race is pretty much in the bag for him at this point. Chaz Mostert runs 14th. Mark Whittam on him 15th. I think this is the worst Chaz has run all season long so far. But, one more pit stop to go. We'll see how it plays out. If anybody will play the undercut strategy or what'll happen here. Because, while they will have the extra set of tires, it shouldn't be that long that they need to be on pit road. I don't know if anybody's going to take the tires. We'll have to wait and see. But we continue on. 13 to go. Bamberg now has a 4-second lead, and this one is fairly well settled for him. Looking like he is going to walk away victorious here at Sebring in the first race. And of course, Shane Van Gisbergen did win round one, technically. There are no points awarded for it or anything. There's nothing special other than you were the overall winner of that event. Each event is, however many races are a part of it. There's 20 rounds on the calendar, and however many races make up those 20 rounds, that's what we have. And so here we are. Sebring 2 races makes up a round. Whoever does the best points-wise over the 2 races is considered the round winner. Excuse me. So, not much longer to go, and I think we're actually going to take a moment and do a crank it up, essentially, just using this camera. So, we'll be right back. And we're back. And Earl Bamber decides to take the undercut. Brock Feeney as well. Both drivers already on pit road. Feeney coming to his box. Bamber already in it. But both of those drivers have taken the undercut. Kamui Kobayashi as well on the undercut once more. And Brody Kostecki will take it as well. Seeing if anybody else is looking for it. Bamber already leaving pit road. He's actually going to beat out Mario Farnbacher. So he's going to be behind Cam Waters, but you can kind of see much shorter pit stop this time, just a 21.6, only 47 seconds on pit road. So they didn't need as much fuel, obviously, with only 10 laps to go. This thing is coming to a close and coming quickly. Philippe Albuquerque runs right on the back bumper of Shane Van Gisbergen. Holden versus Holden. Who's going to get the job, or who's going to get the finishing position here? As I think both of them are going to be running second, third. It's just not going to be in the cards that they're going to get Bamber. Bamber, I think, had a perfect pit stop. I don't think it was much possible to be faster than he was, and with 47.7 seconds on pit road, these guys really aren't going to be able to match that, I don't think. And we're probably going to see, well, actually, they aren't going to come yet, as I am joined by, I guess, my co-host. Say hi, Salem. He's shy when he's out of the cage for whatever reason. What are you doing? What are you doing, buddy? Hi. Oh, you good boy. No, you're going to bite me. Okay, you want to play. I know. You're a good kitty. He's a good little boy. And yes, for those that are going to wonder, he does get his name Salem from the show Sabrina the Teenage Witch. The original with, what's her name? But the I say original. I don't know if it was the original. The one from the 90s. With the talking cat and whatnot, where I swear up and down I get all of my sarcasm from. It was because I watched that show. He is an all-black cat, and he is adorable, and I love him. He loves to play, and he loves to get himself into trouble. So his name kind of fits. He's got the best little collar for him. He's got all-black collar with silver stars and moons on it. So I saw that, and I was like, that is perfect for him. Knock it off. So 9 laps to go, and now the question becomes, when does Shane Van Gisbergen and Philippe Albuquerque come to pit road? As I continue to be attacked by him. Eight laps to go. Van Gisbergen and Albuquerque continue to stay out. And continue the fight. Bamber runs 7th currently. 32 seconds behind these two. Now, of course, everybody still has to pit. except for obviously the drivers who have already made their final pit stop. The only thing that this is doing for Shane and Philippe, and what they're hoping is that Bamber is going to get stuck behind someone like Cam Waters, and he's going to not be able to gain time on them. And while they continue to run like this, they're hoping that their pit stop is something like 5 seconds. That it's just a splash of gas and go. And that maybe their total time on pit road is down to 20 some seconds. I mean, Bamber took 21.6 seconds in his box, and his total pit lane time was 47.7. So the less fuel you need in the car, the better off you're going to be. Certainly. Now the question is, how long does Bamber get stuck behind Cam Waters? Of course, Cam Waters is also going to need to pit. And it just kind of becomes one of those questions of when each of these guys pit. Bamber is currently behind Cam Waters. And Waters is, running the defensive line. He's running the line that everybody's been kind of running here today to hold off the guy behind him. And the question is going to be, when does Bamber decide that it's his time to pit? As you see, Tommy Milner has decided, and Loic Duval, that they both want to come down pit road. Now, this is going to be a key. How long are they in the box for? It's such an important thing now. How much time have they managed to save over Earl Bamber's 21.6? And as it stands, they were actually slower, 22.2. So with that being said, you're looking at that going, well, that isn't what you want to see if you're Shane Van Gisbergen. And definitely what he doesn't want to see is the fact that Bamber is kind of holding his own. And if he can, he might be able to get around Waters here. If he does get around Waters, that's really going to set up Shane for trouble. Of course, he's also being stuck on the outside. He thankfully doesn't end up in a bad spot there, but we'll have to see. Maybe Loic Duval's crew isn't quite good enough to really get the best out of that strategy. We'll have to see, as it does look like here comes Shane Van Gisbergen and Philippe Albuquerque this time. Bamber is just 30 seconds back, and of course closing now, as he's going to come into the long straight. Now, how long will Shane be in his box for? This is the huge key. I want to see if there isn't just a better camera angle. Well, it's a good one, but not quite what we're looking for. So here's Shane, and Bamber is coming through. Shane is in his box still, and he's slower. He's still slower than Bamber. So everything that you thought would help Shane maybe there, going longer, doesn't need as much fuel in, and he's slower than Bamber. Thought for sure, Bamber's got to put enough fuel in this thing to make it to the end. Blah, blah, blah. He's there earlier. He's going to have to put a little bit more. Well, no, not true. They put in enough fuel. They're going to the end, and it's 12 seconds. It's not even going to be a contest. Earl Bamber has won this race with ease. And he played the pit strategy right. I mean, he 4 or 5 laps earlier, whatever it was, that he decided to come in. Absolutely, he played the pit strategy correctly. No question about it. So Earl Bamber will win here today, barring any kind of absolutely ridiculous moment out of him, which, in fairness, we have seen from him. But just 6 laps to go here. This race is closing, or coming to a close, ever quickly. Bamber crossed the line. It's only 5 to go now. As he comes through Big Bend. Handful of laps more to go, and we'll have to see how this all plays out. Now, those that are familiar with Supercars certainly are familiar with this site. The number 17 Shell Pennzoil, or V Shell, whatever they call it, Dick Johnson Racing entry, cruising to victory. This was a common sight in the Scott McLaughlin Team Penske era. And you almost kind of wonder if Penske didn't go down there simply to find their next IndyCar driver, or next Will Power, if you would. Because as soon as they got Scott McLaughlin on the team for IndyCar, they were gone. It's no longer Team Penske, Dick Johnson Racing, or whatever it might have been called. It is now just Dick Johnson Racing again. Penske's out. And so, you know, this is still a familiar sight, this car, Victory Lane. Certainly for supercar fans. And you either love it or you hate it. There is no in between. You love it or you hate it. Because it happens so often, you had to either love it or hate it. It's almost like Jimmy Johnson winning the championship. For so long, it was the only thing you saw. You either loved it as a Jimmy fan or you hated it as everybody else. And I was a Hendrick fan, but I was a Jeff Gordon fan first. So I hated it. I hated Jimmy Johnson for years. As his career kind of wound down, I was more okay with him. But, you know, you win like that and you hate a guy. Sebastian Vettel. I hated seeing him win for a handful of years with the Red Bulls. Now I love the guy to death. He's one of my favorite drivers in Formula One. I'm sad to see he's retiring. Of course, it's going to happen to every driver out there. But that's what it is. Lewis Hamilton, I don't know. It might be a different story on how I feel about that one because I really have never liked him since he joined Formula One. Just wasn't a fan of his attitude way back when whenever it was that he joined. I think it was 2007. I never really liked him. And that's me personally. Absolutely acknowledged, fantastic driver, one of the best ever of all time. Still don't like him. Same kind of goes for Kyle Busch. One of the best ever. Absolutely. Can't stand his attitude. I do not like Kyle Busch as a driver. But here we are. 4 laps to go. You can't change any of that kind of stuff. So Bamber continues to lead for Dick Johnson. And quite frankly, talking about those things, I didn't like Scott McLaughlin at all for years while he was driving that 17 car. Could not stand the guy. Now he's in IndyCar. I don't mind him. Still don't really like him because of the supercar stuff. But I tolerate him a little bit more because he's not as dominant. So, Who knows? 3 laps to go, and we're coming to the finish here. Not quite much longer, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be out of these supercars and into the wonderful Pilot Challenge cars. And boy, are we looking forward to those. What a show they will put on for 2 hours. What will I find to talk about? Nobody knows. But we'll figure out something, and quite frankly, the battles will be awesome, hopefully. We might even see a couple cautions. Like I said, I've seen it before. We might see one caution. I'm going to be honest. The way that the restarts in that series don't really lend to multiple restarts. They don't do double file restarts. It's all single file. So the likelihood that we might see back-to-back cautions is very low. So it might just be one. Might be right off the rip, right off the start. Put it out. Who knows? But 3 laps to go. Bamber continues to lead, and boy, is it not close. Shane Van Gisbergen and Philippe Albuquerque is at least close, and Pippo Durrani's closed up to them. So there's a battle going on somewhere on the track, and there's battles throughout the field. Just not for the win. Bamber has got that thing locked up tighter than, well, quite frankly, I'm not great with metaphors, so tighter than something. Not really sure. All right, we see Farnbacher get around Ryan Hunter-Ray. This is, of course, the battle going on for 14th. It's one of the closest, biggest battles that we have going on, so kind of why we're keeping with this one. There is also Brody Kostecki going at it with Cam Waters, who all of a sudden has his wing back. So, I don't know what's going on, because that man was driving a Holden Commodore sedan with no wing earlier, and it looked pretty cool. Honestly, I liked it, but he's got the wing back, so who knows. Bamber just absolutely gone. Like, he is getting ready to head into this right-hander here. These guys are just coming through the hairpin, and they're going at it too. So we're going to actually stick with this because there is at least a battle going on, and there's some semblance of importance to it. So the battle for second rages. Shane Van Gisbergen versus the two Brazilian drivers, Philippe Albuquerque and Pippo Durrani, both trying to find their way around. Philippe in the Brad Jones Racing entry Holden Commodore. Pippo Durrani in the Grove Racing Ford Mustang. And of course, Shane Van Gisbergen driving the 888 Engineering Red Bull Ample Holden Commodore. So, 2 laps to go. They're actually coming to 1 to go this time once Bamber crosses the line, which should be any second here. Actually, he is just now, I've got the track map up, he's just now coming out of Sunset Bend, Sunset Corner, whatever it is entitled. It's the corner right up here. The white flag is out. I don't know why it has switched to the checkered flag logo. It should be the white. There we go. The white flag is out, not the checkered flag yet. That is the next flag. As Bamber gets ready to head into Big Bend, and these guys continue their battle here. So Shane Van Gisbergen continues to hold steady. He's really just kind of holding on tight. Here comes Philippe Albuquerque, the outside. He sends it in deep into the hairpin. What kind of run can he get out? This has been where we've seen the closest to battles. Pippo Durrani now trying to maybe take advantage of Philippe Albuquerque, sending it to Shane Van Gisbergen's inside. He looks. Philippe sends it in deep again. He's now going to be side by side through this section. Can Pippo get to his inside here? And how will this change things? Pippo now trying to get around Philippe Albuquerque. Pippo Durrani to the inside. He's now going to clear Philippe Albuquerque. So in the final lap, Pippo Durrani is able to clear Philippe Albuquerque and take over the final step of the podium. So at least we do get some semblance of action here towards the end of the race. As Bamber comes off the final corner, and Earl Bamber takes the checkered flag here at Sebring. Earl Bamber wins. Shane Van Gisbergen now coming off of Sunset Bend with Pippo Durrani and Philippe Albuquerque behind. And they come across the line. Van Gisbergen, Durrani, Albuquerque. Loic Duval coming across. Tommy Milner behind him. Brody Kostecki has been going at it with Cam Waters, but we don't know if Cam will be able to get anything going here at the end. It's not really looking like it. Cam's going to make the attempt, but they come across the line. Garcia and Van der Zand. Richard Westbrook comes across the line, and then the big battle at the back. Winterbottom, Farnbacher, Hunter Ray, Eastwood, Mostert, Vanderlyn, Taylor's crossed the line. Scott Pye with Sebastian Bourdais and David Reynolds and Marco Wittmann, the last driver running. So Earl Bamber, your race winner, and of course we will take this back to the start finish line as we so like to do here. Yep. So Earl Bamber wins here at Sebring. He started second, ran first, and the lowest he ever was 7th. He is your winner today. over there, Castroneves for some reason is showing in as if he's in a touring car, like the green. He is definitely in one of the top class cars. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll have to see. But here we go. We're gonna go to this camera, and we've got cars on track here today. So we are ready to go. Sebring, 2 hours. Fantastic racing. Some of the best cars in the field here today with the gorgeous GT4s and the touring cars. 1 lap of, or no, 2 laps of qualifying, I believe, which might explain what the problem with and why it didn't just advance over in Supercars. They were supposed to get another lap that I forgot about. So I was wholly accustomed to the NASCAR stuff that they only get 1 lap nowadays. That I forgot that these guys get 2 across both series. So, yep, I might have screwed up the Supercars qualifying. Oh, I feel bad for them. But we are going to step away for just a moment while these guys put in their qualifying laps. I'm going to grab a drink real quick and make sure that we are well hydrated for this one. So something, as I am back, something that you guys may have noticed in the field, a couple new paint schemes here. Joseph Newgarden now rocking the pink of T-Mobile for the Nightmare Motorsports crew. He got a new look for that car. And George Russell sporting the blue and red for Mobile One as the two sponsors have come on board in support of the team. So we got Mobile One and T-Mobile, and the same can be said in the lower series with Robert Kubica in the blue and red of the Mobile One car and Colton Herta in the pink and black and silver of T-Mobile. So Willpower currently sits on the pole, but of course, still with another lap to go. And you can kind of see, and I don't know why some of them are showing green over there. It seems to be the Porsches that are being weird. Although Dixon's in a BMW. But it's mostly the Porsches that are being weird and being green for some reason. They're definitely not supposed to be green. They should be a part of the red class. The green class, and I guess the white cars as well, that are kind of populating it, are part of the touring cars. As for the red is your GT4 cars, and for some reason it's deciding to be weird about it and not put the correct cars in the correct class or something. Just note the same goes kind of as last week. If they're above 22nd and above, they're going to be in GT4 unless they have wrecked out. If they're below it, they are likely in touring car unless again somebody is wrecked out. Of course, also if you've kind of paid attention and followed from Daytona, you may know a handful of the drivers and where they are, and that might help as well. So Willpower will retain and will hold on to the pole, and Willpower will lead them to the field. Will Alex Palou lead the touring car class? Who's going to be the pole sitter here? Will it be the Daytona winner, Robert Kubica, or will it be somebody else? And it looks like after all is said and done in class, it's Kevin Magnussen who will line up with his teammate just behind him in third. Sergio Perez qualifies second, Colton Herta fourth. Daytona winner, Robert Kubica, sixth. Your winner at Daytona in GT4s qualified 11th, and his paint scheme didn't load. Awesome. I tried to check that before. Checked every car that was on track. They all looked good. Come back and now frickin' Carlos Sainz's paint scheme isn't there. Great. We're just going to roll through and see who else didn't load. Give me just a second. We did update Fernando Alonso's paint scheme to accommodate away from what was previously on the car because it was not working properly. It does look like everybody in this class is good to go. Yep, everybody is good there. Let's take another look at Sainz, and his paint scheme has since loaded. Good. So we are good to go. Again, I don't know. I cannot explain to you why some of the cars are white, some are green, but it is what it is. We are on to the race, and a little bit of nighttime racing will occur. As we get later, it should be like the last maybe 10 minutes will be in pure darkness if I time this correctly. It's kind of what I'm hoping for, and you can see that gap there. That's actually where my car would be sitting, but I don't know why it left it there, as probably because I'm in the wrong class and I should be in a touring car, but it's okay. Things that I need to remember going forward. So we give it the grid start. They've got the very short pace lap. These guys are right on the backstretch here, going into Sunset Bend, which is why I wanted the short pace lap. We're going to get ready to go racing. Will Power is going to lead them to the field. Marcus Ericsson's second. You can kind of see how they all line up on the ticker to the left of the screen. And we're going to get ready. They're going to drop the green flag here. Unlike the Supercars, we are in a rolling start here, and you can kind of see we're getting already 3 and maybe even 4 wide further back. And will we see contact anywhere in the field? It looks like we're all going to make it through turn 1 pretty cleanly and fairly surprising, and even the touring cars do so. So everybody makes it through turn 1 in a surprising, shocking fashion, clean as can be. So that's, I say that's surprising and shocking, but obviously this is something that we do like to see, and it should hopefully lend to better racing. Now, one of the side effects of my car not being lined up probably where it should have been is now you've got Sergio Perez, who kind of got a jump on Kevin Magnussen. Like, he is a little bit of a ways out in front. Now, Colton Herta does look like he also got around K-Mags going down into the first corner. And that's very possible because, again, K-Mags got put out of position. So something that I will remember moving forward is that I need to be in a GT4 car in these lineups as Elio Castroneves goes sliding through. Oh my word, how he did not hit anybody in that moment is absolutely incredible. As Esteban Ocon ended up sliding through. And he does end up getting hit here by Alex Palou, at which point he does start going through. And you saw, I want to say that's Danny Rick in the 3, and then you just kind of see Ocon just slide in through here. So Danny Rick went through on the outside in the grass to get around the whole group. So a fantastic job by Danny Rick to really pick up a handful of positions there because of that. And then here's the rest of the battle in that class. And this class could put on a show again. The touring cars are fantastic to watch. Absolutely enjoy and love watching these guys. They have some of the best racing in the field, in my opinion. And now Colton Herta is going to go toe-to-toe with Kevin Magnussen. He's going to try and hold him up. It looks like Connor Daly trying to find his way around Kevin Magnussen, and Lando Norris trying to get involved in this fight. Oh, I'm actually behind at this point. Yeah, there we go. So Connor Daly has actually gotten around Kevin Magnussen. He's now going to go on the defensive. K-Mags is now with his teammate Lando Norris here, trying to figure that out, how they're going to get anywhere. Grosjean is battling with VK. Kubica now dealing with the charging Elio Castroneves, who's trying to get back to the front. Meanwhile, at the lead of this race, Will Power leads over Devlin DeFrancesco and Scott Dixon. Marcus Ericsson has fallen back to 4th. Juan Pablo Montoya runs 5th. And Max Verstappen in 6th. Again, your winner fallen back to 12th already. But still, we carry on. The race is early. We're looking at lap 2 out of 54, which is actually only 2 laps longer than the NASCAR Cup race will be tomorrow. The NASCAR race is about 52 laps, and yeah, it's going to be interesting. So will the Hondas be able to catch back up to Sergio Perez's Hyundai, a sight that they saw quite a bit at Daytona? They're probably sick of it. But Sergio Perez, absolutely one of the best, and he's going to prove it time and time again this season. Colton Herta right up there with it. He's one of the best there is. Orlando Norris putting on a good show this week. Kevin Magnussen certainly having a much better showing than his first outing at Daytona, which really didn't go his way, to be honest. Connor Daly also probably could have had a better day at Daytona, and now he's dealing with Helio Castroneves and kind of constantly in the wrong spot. He's going defensive, and he's really going defensive because of Kevin Magnussen, but it was actually hurting Helio Castroneves for a little bit there as the two AlphaTauri teammates go toe-to-toe between Kevin Magnussen and Lando Norris. Robert Kubica looks to get around Rinus VeeKay, and this battle continues on up here. Connor Daly is just saying, yes, keep fighting behind me. Please, go. Helio gets around Colton pretty quickly, in fact, and now he sets his sight on Sergio Perez, who goes defensive for whatever reason. I think these guys actually see this as trying to hold on to the position against the guy. And it's like, this isn't really a fight that you can win in any circumstance. So I don't know why you're even trying it. But they do. And now Sergio Perez is going to have to deal with Colton Herta. Colton Herta is going to run him down. He's right up on him now. And certainly this is going to be a good battle, hopefully, throughout this race. We saw Sergio Perez deal with Colton's teammate at Daytona, Robert Kubica, but now it's Colton's turn to get up here and try and fight. At the front, we still see Will Power lead over Devlin DeFrancesco and Scott Dixon. And DeFrancesco is actually battling harder with Dixon and Ericsson than he is trying to run down Will Power. So 4 laps in, we're just approaching the 10-minute mark here soon, and Will Power is pulling away. DeFrancesco is doing everything in his power to be defensive, and, you know, there's no reason for him to not be. I mean, maybe it's a little early for this. Maybe if the guy behind you is a little bit faster than you, you kind of move over and let the guy have it, but we're not choosing that path. We're choosing the path of battle. And speaking of battle, we do have Colton Herta going side by side with Sergio Perez. They're going to go down into this right-hander, and we'll see who holds on. Colton Herta goes a little bit wide, and Sergio's going to maybe hold the position. Colton is still kind of there. He's still fighting. He's going to get run a little bit wide, and he has to concede the position. So a great battle as Connor Daly is inching ever closer now because of this. And with him comes Lando Norris and Kevin Magnussen. So we can carry on. This is arguably, again, as it was at Daytona, this is probably the best battle you're going to get out of here. This is some of the best racing. I love the touring cars. They really put on a great show week in and week out, and we'll see how this plays out. Now, again, this is something that I kept saying in the supercar race. I wish they would follow that guy on that defensive line in. So, here we go. Continuing on, defensive line for Sergio Perez once more. Colton Herta sends it in. Really not close enough to really think about anything. Is he going to look for an inside dive? He certainly looked for the inside line. He's going to get hard on the brakes. This is going to open the door for Colton Herta, or not Colton Herta, but Connor Daly to maybe try to come through. Colton Herta going to try and hold him off through these sets of corners so that he's got a chance at Sergio Perez down into the hairpin. He's not going to be able to do so. And now Sergio Perez is actually far enough ahead as Colton Herta actually kind of puts the squeeze on Connor Daly, and he might have got on the brakes a little. Kevin Magnussen's going to look to come through. So Kevin Magnussen tries to get the position. He doesn't get the job done. And now Lando Norris is looking if he can't get by his own teammate. Nothing really coming of it. So he falls in line and follows. Robert Kubica now closes up as we get more and more into this group battle that kind of goes on throughout the race. So Kubica is now caught it, and we have 6 cars make up this absolute front train. And then there's just an ever small gap to the 7th place runner of Romain Grosjean. So really only about a second between him and Kubica. So it's not too much. But it's enough that if Rinus VeeKay gets right up to him, he might decide to go defensive, which is what we see consistently out of Sergio Perez. So can Colton Herta, with his car in the wind, be able to do anything as you actually see Connor Daly poke his nose to the inside, utilizing the draft of both Colton Herta and Sergio Perez to throw it up the inside and possibly get the pass done. Kevin Magnussen closes up to Colton Herta, and now Connor Daly runs second. So here we go. Connor Daly now looking much the same way that Colton Herta was the previous lap. Colton's now going to get the same run he had on, or that Connor had on him, as they go down the corner, through the corner and into Big Bend. Colton actually clears Connor much easier, and Robert Kubica now on the outside of Lando Norris. So now the question is, can Colton send this thing in deep and get to the outside of Sergio Perez? And the answer is no. Kubica now on the outside of Lando Norris, and I believe he gets that job actually done. So Kubica now into 5th in class. If we look at the front of the field, not much has changed. Power's ahead by 3 seconds. And, well, I mean, there has been some. Juan Pablo Montoya has jumped to 3rd. Scott Dixon now runs 4th. So a change there between those two. But overall, not too much difference going on. Verstappen trying to find his way. And you can kind of see a bit more of different gaps forming throughout this field. Of course, pit stops will, as they always do, play such an important factor. But the touring car race continues to be some of the best racing in the field. Absolutely enjoy and love this type of racing. Again, I wish, this is just the one thing I think they need to improve with the AI. In this scenario where you need the draft, and it's clear and obvious, because Colton is just hitting a brick wall when he is not right behind Sergio Perez, you would see them follow Sergio to the inside like that. When Sergio runs to the inside, they wouldn't hold this line like that. When Sergio goes defensive like this, they would all follow him down there. And then as they get closer to the corner, they'd all run higher, knowing that the draft is so important. Colton going to get a big run. Can he utilize it? He's not going to be able to get to the inside as he wanted to. And now Kevin Magnussen looks to the inside of Connor Daly. Daly was almost thinking about utilizing the same move he had before on Colton Herta. Gets the move used on him by Kevin Magnussen as Kevin Magnussen's going to come through. And Robert Kubica looks to get 4th. Colton Herta now close enough to maybe throw a dive on the outside. and Kubica holds position. Herta not close enough, but the battle rages on, and what a fantastic battle it has been so far. Honestly, putting on this show in this class, these guys are going toe to toe for each and every position, and it's really first through about 12th that are all together. This is just one big group at this point. There's a couple small gaps here and there. Grosjean's is almost a second behind VK, and VK is almost a second behind Lando, and you get into those small little gaps. But ultimately, it's one big, really big group in comparison to, say, Will Power, who's now ahead by 5 seconds, versus Dixon and DeFrancesco. So something that you'll see that we kind of run into, and this is, like I said, part of the problem of the way that the AI run here, is it's impossible to pass the car that's defending. It's just not really something that's going to happen. We'll have to see if that changes at other tracks, but as they run here with the way that you can continue to see it, it's just not going to happen. They need the draft to pass the guy. And this move allows for the draft to be completely broken. Now, they get a great run here, but it's not enough. It's just one of those runs that they just can't get the job done. Colton Herta is going to look to the inside once more of Kevin Magnussen. So this battle is going to rage on, and Lando Norris to the inside of Robert Kubica. Connor Daly, I think I said Colton Herta. Connor Daly was the one to the inside of Kevin Magnussen. And Sergio Perez is going to probably hold on here again. As, yes, Colton Herta not close enough to really be able to do anything. So it's kind of the problem that you run into on road courses. Something that Daytona is able to avoid because the defensive line is the inside line, which is also the preferred line through the NASCAR corners. So they end up drafting one another. You don't get that here. They don't draft one another. Like I said, if we could get the AI to follow and have a better draft logic and a better logic sense of knowing the situation, so better situational awareness, to know that, hey, I need the draft off of this guy to be able to make this pass. Then, when Sergio Perez makes this move right here, instead of just staying out here, and now you have two cars plowing the wind, and you can see how it's affecting Colton. He's actually running slower down the straightaway than Sergio Perez is because he's not in his draft. It's one of the biggest issues, I think, currently plaguing the AI. You get these awesome races that are just kind of overshadowed because somebody like Sergio Perez can just park it on the defensive line and hold position consistently. And even though Colton's able to make really great moves, as he's going to look the inside there for just a moment, nothing really doing, but he had a chance at it. But yeah, you just get into these situations where nothing's really doable for second place. And they just end up swapping with the cars behind them. Such is the case at the front, as we have news that Max Verstappen has towed at some point. We'll try and find out what happened to him. I didn't even notice that. I was too focused on this. So Max sends it in. He actually does make contact with Scott Dixon. Oh, he back-to-back contact. Dixon loses positions. Juan Pablo Montoya loses positions, and Max Verstappen is out of this race. So an absolutely incredible moment here. And we'll go on board, if we can. You use the chase cam here and see exactly what happens. So Max sends this thing in, makes contact, hits the wall, makes more contact. Dixon's now around, and there goes Max hitting that wall pretty hard. See the view from Dixon's angle. He's now trying to deal with Juan Pablo Montoya there, and here comes Max, sends it in, contact, spinning. Honestly, I think Dixon's more incredible that he isn't more damaged than he was. But Max Verstappen is out of this race. So not the news that Max Verstappen was looking for. Meanwhile, in the touring car battle, further back in it, towards the back of the pack, we have everybody side by side. Back at the front in GT4 with Charles Leclerc and company. They're all trying to get around. I believe this is Christian Lundgaard leading this group over Zhou Guang Yu and Carlos Sainz, Simona Di Silvestro now trying to get around Carlos Sainz, and you have to wonder how many more cars will go out of this race if situations like that continue to happen. That wasn't something that I was expecting to see here, but they did make contact, and we end up in a situation where Max Verstappen is out of this race due to contact. And Colton Herta now runs second in this class. So again, things continue to kind of move around, and I'm just now noticing the flag coloration was once again on checkered when it should be on green. So now Will Power is gone from Devlin DeFrancesco, 6 seconds ahead of him. And DeFrancesco is clear from Marcus Ericsson. If all things hold steady, I'd actually expect DeFrancesco to be taking over the point lead headed into round 3. And now Colton Herta swings it way out wide as he's under pressure from Connor Daly. Connor Daly looking to the outside maybe of Sergio Perez. Kevin Magnussen trying to fight his way through on the inside of Colton Herta. Robert Kubica fights his way through on the inside of Lando Norris, and Kevin Magnussen gets through to third. This now lines up the Nightmare teammates in an AlphaTauri sandwich. So who will it be that can figure out how to get around Sergio Perez? And what probably has to be frustrating for Kevin Magnussen is that if I would have done this correctly, it would be him in Sergio Perez's position, unable to be passed. So, apologies to K-Max, because I really like K-Max. Towards the front, Marcus Ericsson continues his battle to hold on to third now, with Tony Kanaan, Tatiana Calderon, and Joseph Newgarden putting on the pressure. But for sure, Devlin DeFrancesco, I believe, finished second at Daytona. And with the way that Carlos Sainz is currently running. If he holds steady, he's not going to be much of a threat. But there is still, of course, plenty of time, and we'll have to see how everything plays out. As I try and go back and double check. I know it was J.R. Hildebrand that ran second in that race. Devlin DeFrancesco ran third. That's what it was. So still over an hour and a half to go. Just over an hour and a half. And the touring cars certainly putting on much better of a lead fight than the GT4s are. And this is something that'll happen occasionally. It's going to happen from time to time, where the GT4s are just a boring battle. There's nothing going on, and then you've got the likes of the touring cars that are just beating and banging, and the headlights are on the cars, and they're on at this point. So we are into the point where it's kind of becoming nighttime. So I'm actually a little surprised at how early it is, but there's still plenty of light out. So we're not too worried about getting into a dark time period just yet. Eventually, we are going to get into a point where if there aren't headlights, we won't be able to see the track. Hopefully, and that's supposed to be with about 10, 20 minutes to go in the race, somewhere in there. We kicked off at, I think, 5:30 p.m. The sun is supposed to be completely set at, I think, 7:10. So, probably about 20 minutes of darkness racing. But absolutely love it. I mean, it's such a cool scene seeing the transition from, sunset into the absolute nighttime. And this track is so gorgeous at night. I absolutely love Sebring at night, even though you can't see most of it. And this could be a dangerous situation as we're now 3 wide for just a moment. Lando Norris and Colton Herta going side by side. Could have been a lot worse than it was. They're able to get through it side by side, no problem. Kevin Magnussen now trying his hand at going after Sergio Perez as Colton Herta kind of muscles his way a little bit through to get past Lando Norris. And I believe that's, in fact, yes it is, Jimmy Johnson now finding his way. He didn't get to run here in real life. I think he was looking forward to it, getting to run this race, but they kind of had a conflict with the IndyCar, and he didn't get to run Sebring this year. So here he is now with us in the Hyundai. Come on. So, fantastic. Okay. I apologize for whatever that was. I guess my mic got unplugged somehow. And so we ended up with it freezing when I plugged it back in. I'm not quite sure exactly what happened. But each time these guys go through Sunset Bend, I absolutely love seeing these little Hondas, especially the Hondas right here at the front. But I mean, all of the cars, the Velocitors, but you do have 4 of the Hondas going right at it here for second through fifth. As Colton sends it in, really kind of actually might even make contact there with Connor Daly to get through on him, and actually Lando Norris is going to follow suit as well. Will Jimmy Johnson and his little Veloster throw it through? He's going to certainly try to. And we've got now Colton Herta going side by side with Kevin Magnussen. Colton Herta really muscling his way into second place here possibly as he runs side by side with Kevin Magnussen down to the hairpin. They're going to try to outbrake one another through each bit of this corner. And now Colton Herta really going to get a great run off on that outside. And he's going to clear. So a fantastic job by Colton Herta to get through. And Jimmy Johnson gets through on Connor Daly as well. Now Robert Kubica looks to his inside or outside. And now Jimmy Johnson's back fighting Connor Daly once more. They're side by side. This could end poorly as Robert Kubica is kind of in the same boat just behind them. They do make it through without putting anybody out into the grass and causing a wreck, which we love to see. Rinus VeeKay now making the pass on Robert Kubica. So we actually have the top 8 cars all in this big pack. As Jimmy Johnson does fall victim to Connor Daly. Connor Daly is able to get through, and now Rinus VeeKay tries to go through as well. And Robert Kubica tries to find who the fastest group or line is going to be to follow through. Kevin Magnussen now trying his luck to the inside of Colton Herta once more, and Colton going to try and hold around Sunset Bend as these guys really lean it on the left side of these cars through here. I absolutely love seeing the way that these cars step through the corner like that. Colton and Kevin going side by side again, really giving it everything they've got here. This is absolutely incredible battling, and I'm going to hate to see it end, but it's got to end at some point, otherwise somebody's going to end up in the fence, much like Max. Colton Herta doing everything in his power to find some way by Sergio Perez. He's not sure how he's going to do it, but he's certain that he's going to find that way. And it may be on a pit stop, certainly is possible. But you just never know, and he's going to fight tooth and nail to figure it out on the racetrack because, well, you want to beat the guy on the racetrack. Obviously, getting him on pit road is one thing. You're not going to be opposed to it entirely, but you want to beat him straight up. You want to get past that guy. You want to prove that you're the better driver out here. So, we'll see. Should only be one pit stop out of the touring car group. Should be 2 for the GT4s again. We may play with the fuel levels in both cars to see if we can't maybe turn in a little bit more strategy. As of right now, I do kind of like it the way it is. It's very much like it would be in real life for these 2-hour events. So, not really much that I see need changing. What I am kind of noticing, and I'm wondering if it isn't a byproduct of the rubber buildup, is that we're seeing more and more battling kind of going on through a lot of the corners, and it's almost has me wondering if the rubber buildup isn't giving these guys a bit more grip in certain areas. They started with 100% rubber, but obviously as this race goes on, they're building up more and more through the corners in certain areas, giving themselves more grip into certain bits. As Lando Norris tries to get around Kevin Magnussen, and they're going to be side by side into one. And this is going to let Colton Herta kind of have a little bit of freedom to go after Sergio Perez, however he kind of needs to. Kevin Magnussen is able to clear. Lando Norris falls in line. Colton Herta jumps back to the outside. Kevin Magnussen's going to look to the inside. And these two are going to go at it, and K-Mags is going to come out on top. Connor Daly's now going to try to throw it to the inside of Colton Herta, and they're going to be side by side coming through Big Bend. We inch closer to the 1 hour mark, and we expect to see pit stops out of the lead group at, well, any time now. Tony Kanaan has actually made a pass, and probably the most surprising thing that we've heard all day. Tony Kanaan has made a pass on a defending car, and he is through into third. Now it's Joseph Newgarden trying to get around Marcus Ericsson. And he's not going to be able to get the job done. Marcus Ericsson is going to hold position. But Tony Kanaan has made a pass in the number 41 Falcon Aston Martin. And we'll carry on. Scott Dixon runs 2 laps down currently. He's trying to maneuver his way through the touring car field at the moment. So we'll see how that plays into the touring car battle. He's obviously going to be faster than those touring cars and shouldn't have any problem passing them, although if he's down on power, he might actually struggle a little. We'll have to see down the straightaway where he will obviously have a top end advantage in the GT4 car. Or at least he should, but it's not really looking like he does. I'm not sure if he's trying to be courteous with, I believe this is, it's Takuma. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's being courteous with Takuma Sato, or if he just doesn't have the power. But once again, Kevin Magnussen runs second in class. Connor Daly up to third. Lando Norris now getting around Colton Herta. They're side by side. Jimmy Johnson sixth and Robert Kubica right behind. It looks like Alex Palou has caught the back of this pack. And Daniel Ricciardo. So interesting things to note back here. Still with plenty of time to go in this race. Anything can happen. Will Power could wreck out. I don't know how. I don't know why. Could be when he comes up to these lap cars here in a moment. Because, boy, that's going to be a thing. And unlike we're kind of seeing with Dixon, who's struggling to get around Takuma Sato, and I wonder if it isn't just because he has engine damage. I really do think he might. I don't think you're going to see that problem with Will Power. I think Will is going to power, get it, his way through the touring car field and do it with ease. So he is catching that group, and he's catching it pretty quickly. They may lap that group 3 times in this race, maybe. We'll have to see how long it takes him to get back to them. And certainly the fact that he will have to make another pit stop. So who knows? Certain races may be more, especially like when we go to the Red Bull Ring and it's such a small circuit. Actually, it could be the opposite. With the Red Bull Ring being so small, you know what? I think it's just going to be 2 laps every race. I think it's not going to change. I think no matter what, they're going to catch them about the same amount of time into a race. So we'll follow with Will Powers. He's now going to try and figure out his way through the field. And I definitely think Scott Dixon has engine damage. I mean, he's actually losing positions on the track to GT or touring cars. There's no way that car is under full power. So Will Power now going to be at the mercy of the touring car field. He's got to figure his way through this. It's certainly not going to be an easy task. And especially not when he gets into the battling areas. These guys, they're going to do their best to accommodate the fact that, Will is coming through. He's definitely faster, and that he's going to want to be able to clear these guys as quickly as possible. But, if they're battling side by side, they're not going to care. They're worried about their position battle. There we come with just under a minute or an hour and 20 minutes to go. We have Will Power working through lap traffic. And whatever kind of mess that's going to cause. Because quite frankly, it could cause a very large mess. The battle continues to rage in touring car at the front. Sergio Perez leads, but Kevin Magnussen, Colton Herta, Connor Daly, Lando Norris, Jimmy Johnson, Robert Kubica, they all continue to just swap and fight and claw and battle lap after lap through each position. Now you can kind of see what I meant. I think this is Rossi and Lewis going side by side here. They don't give a rat's ass that Will Power is behind them. They only care about their position battle. And, Will got stuck there for a moment. And DeFrancesco was able to close up, I think, almost 2 seconds. I mean, is it going to matter much in the grand scheme of things? Probably not. But, it's one of those things that kind of happens and you have to look at it and go, oh, wow, that's interesting. So Will Power continues to lead as he fights his way through the touring car field. And the sun continues to set here in wonderful Sebring. Oh boy, that is Sage Karam. Just absolutely sending one up the inside of Will Power. He said, listen, bud, I don't care that you're in a different class and that you're faster than me. You're not taking away my line. I have a right to it. And that was incredible by Sage Karam. The balls on that man. And now we see how Devlin DeFrancesco can navigate this group because they are side by side up here. And of course, this was one of the things that Will Power ran into was a side by side battle. Oddly enough, involving Alexander Rossi in both. Although now it's Lewis Hamilton versus whoever that might be. So it's a question of how quickly can he get through this. And he does lose time, but certainly got through that side-by-side battle a lot quicker than Will Power did, which was no fault of Will Power's. It was kind of just where they kind of got left with the cars in front. So now Will's going to close on the lead group. And this is the group that has been throwing haymakers. I mean, these guys have been going back and forth the whole race. It's been fantastic. They're side by side, like 3/4 of the track. It's great. Daly and Lando side by side. Jimmy and Kubica are still side by side. They're going to be side by side for corners on corners. Lando Norris clears Connor Daly, but Kubica's still side by side with Jimmy Johnson as they head down into this section. And all the while, as Jimmy makes contact, big contact between Jimmy Johnson and Alex Palou, the former teammates of Chip Ganassi IndyCar Racing, and they're making contact out here. Lando Norris going defensive on Connor Daly, and Kevin Magnussen trying to get back to Sergio Perez. And all the while, Will Powers looking at all this thinking, the hell am I about to be a part of? So he has now caught the lead group, which is still continuing to battle. Kubica and Daly go side by side. Now you have Palou and Jimmy still side by side battling, and it's just continuing, and these guys are just putting on such a great show as Kubica gets a little bit sideways. And the battle continues. So Powers held to the outside. He's now stuck on the wrong end of this corner. He's now going to have to deal with Connor Daly, and Connor Daly is able to actually take care of it. It actually looks like I might be wrong on that. I think the outside might be where you want to be in that corner, to be honest. And Will Powers is going to cycle through it. Now the question is, and yes, they have, the second group of GT4s has now caught the touring cars and are now trying to figure out their way through this. This is a whole thing, a whole ordeal with all of these cars. And Kevin Magnussen has got back up to Sergio Perez. He's brought Colton Herta with him, and they're now going to try and figure out how to get around him. Maybe they can use Will Power coming through. That would be pretty cool. But nonetheless, we're now at an hour and 13 minutes to go in this race. So we may not be looking too long before we're seeing pit stops for Will Power, as he's going to try and send this thing up the inside of Sergio Perez. This could be an opportunity for Kevin Magnussen to maybe sneak through with the draft help of Will Power to kind of maybe pull him through for at least a chance to get alongside Sergio Perez into this corner. And he's going to do exactly that. So Kevin Magnussen going to utilize the draft from Will Power to maybe make this pass on Sergio Perez, and he is. Kevin Magnussen is clear. Kevin Magnussen to the lead of the race. So Kevin Magnussen, with an absolutely brilliant play, utilizes the fact that Will Power was coming through and was running the same line that he wanted to run, and utilizes that on the defending Sergio Perez to get around him. An absolutely incredible move. And I'm proud to say that he actually used draft awareness. Now, of course, we could see this same maneuver get used right back on him if he's not careful with where Devlin DeFrancesco comes around. What K-Mags is hoping for is DeFrancesco gets past him coming into, say, this section. Through here, right into the corner, that last corner, as Colton Herta is going to actually dive this thing to the inside and get side by side with Sergio Perez. Can he make something happen here? And he will. He's through the inside. So Colton Herta goes through to second, and Sergio Perez is now back to third. And how will all of this play out? Colton Herta not close enough to take advantage of a defensive line from Kevin Magnussen in the draft of Devlin DeFrancesco. So he'll have to wait for his opportunity until Tony Kanaan comes through, and that could be a while. Of course, even then, we could see pit stops out of the GT4s by that time. But Kevin Magnussen now leads in touring car. So what a change a couple of laps makes with the overall leaders coming through. Kevin Magnussen absolutely utilizing to his advantage Will Power's draft. A great battle, a great move to come through and take that. If he ends up winning this race, that is the move of the race. That is the move that won him the race, in my opinion. Is it very early to be saying something like that? Absolutely. It's so early still in this race. But, I mean, if he wins the race, it's because he got to the lead. And then he's able to hold on to it. Now, obviously, his pit crew could play a huge factor into this. There's so much that could still happen in this race. But that move was big. That move was huge. Because now he leads. Now it's everybody trying to figure out how to break his defensive line. And we look at some of the cars just kind of side by side battling throughout the field. The GT4 is really trying their best to get through these touring cars and are really having a time of it. I mean, this is not something you're looking forward to in this kind of a race, you know. Tony Kanaan now to the inside of Alex Palou. Going to get by him. Maybe even pull Palou, kind of like we saw Will Power do. But it's not looking exactly like he's really going to give Palou that much of a shot there at that. And Palou's going to hold steady behind his teammate. As we watch this battle, Sergio Perez to the outside of Colton Herta. Will this open the door for maybe Lando Norris to come through on Sergio Perez? Sergio Perez a little bit wide through there. Lando not really the best corner, and he's just going to have to settle for continuing to run fourth. Kubica gets around Jimmy Johnson, and now he's going to clear him and try to go run down Palou. Of course, if he has to go defensive, that won't help much. Kevin Magnussen continues to lead over Colton Herta and Sergio Perez. Tony Kanaan now here. Herta now hoping that TK kind of gets him in that same kind of like right spot that we saw Will Power get by Kevin Magnussen to really give him an opportunity. I think he needs it to be as they come through this corner. And he's going to get by Colton here. And I don't know. Well, Colton really holds pretty steady. And they're going to have to run where they are right now. But you kind of see, because of the gap, Colton's not close enough. And he's going to have to draft off of Kevin Magnussen. Marcus Ericsson coming through on the inside. And you hope for Colton's sake he gets clear in time. And it does look like he did, but we're still going to get side-by-side racing with Colton and Sergio Perez. All the while that this kind of continues, Kevin Magnussen pulls ahead a little bit. And Colton just lets Sergio go through, and Kevin Magnussen ran wide. So Kevin Magnussen with Marcus Ericsson, and what was going on here? Handful of guys just running slow. We don't have a yellow flag. But there's just drivers going slow on the track. I'm not sure. As Colton Herta takes over lead in class. I don't know what I'm witnessing right now. They're almost driving around like they're on the cool down lap. As Sergio Perez takes the lead back. And is the only guy running the racing line. I'm not understanding what's going on here. Sergio Perez is about to run away with this thing as he's the only driver running the actual racing line. What in the world is going on? And it's not just Colton. It's Kevin Magnussen. It's Lando. It's Ricardo. It's the GT4 guys. Actually, it's not Ricardo. Ricardo's actually running the correct line. I'm so confused right now. As these guys are running so wide. I don't understand what has happened in this race. I really don't. I'm half tempted to just call it. I mean, there's no actual racing to be had if they're going to race like this. I'm going to give them another lap and see if something doesn't fix itself, but I mean, the way that they're running this line like this, which Danny Rick is going to be able to finish second because of this. I don't know what happened. I don't know what kind of switch flipped in their brains. Maybe it's the nighttime. I'm not sure. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Well, we're going to call this the final lap, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what's going on in this race, but I, for one, am not a fan of it. And, yeah. With the way they're running for whatever reason it is, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, to run all the way out there, you see Ricardo running the correct line. It just doesn't make any sense. So once Willpower completes this lap, I will end it. Um, I just, I don't know. It's the strangest thing I have ever seen because everybody is driving the exact same way, save for a handful of drivers. Mick Schumacher apparently is one because he's up to sixth. I don't understand it. So Willpower comes through, and that's hilarious timing on that. But nonetheless, we are going to call it there. I don't know what happened, ladies and gentlemen, but that is actually not going to be the race. We will come back with this race at another time. Uh, this race may get moved to a later point in the season now because of this. So I am not sure what happened. Who knows what happened at this point? It's weird. It was a whole weird moment, and I just don't understand it. So until next time, which is tomorrow for Supercars Race 2 and NASCAR, I will see you guys. Until then, thank you.